I'm Aiman, and welcome back to one of my product showcase videos. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to assemble the 7 cubic foot gorilla cart. I've already done an unboxing video on this, so if you want to know more details about it, go check out that video. I'm also going to do a video on how to hook this up to a tractor, or Cub Cadet, which is going to be a separate video, so go check that out if you're interested. But in today's video, we're just going to get right to it. We have all the parts laid out, so this assumes that you already have everything splayed out. One thing that you will need is a 13mm wrench. In our case, we have a 13mm socket attached to a Milwaukee. It does not come in the box. The actual assembly of the cart is very simple. Per the instructions, there are only 7 steps, and our hardware is already provided. And as you can see, it's already numbered in the steps that we're doing them. So first thing that we're doing is there's an eye-shaped metal frame that we're going to attach to the underside of the cart, of the plastic cart. Then we're going to take the main part of the metal frame, attach that. Then we're going to take the last U-shaped part of it, attach that. All of these are going to be using these bolts, washers, and nuts, which is why we need the 13mm wrench. After that, we're going to attach the wheels. We're going to flip it over and attach the, let's say, handle. And then lastly, we're going to install the, see, that's why I was not sure what to call this one, because this one's also really a handle. Let's call this the pull handle. Okay, so let's get right to it. We're going to start with step 1, which is attaching this eye-shaped beam to the underside of this cart. So I usually like to show people how to do things if you're by yourself. One of the difficulties with this is you need to have the bolts on one side and then the nuts on the other side. So if you're by yourself, you can try to stand it up like this or stand it up against a bench. In our case, this is perfect. We want to make sure that the holes are off the side of the bench. We want to take our nut and bolt hardware, and we're going to go step by step. So we'll take all the nuts and bolts out of pocket 1. Take our frame, and you can notice that this is pretty symmetrical. So there's no difference, there's no orientation that we're going for specifically, as long as this tab is facing outwards. Obviously you wouldn't attach it like like this. You want to make sure that it's flush against the bottom. Okay, how do I do this so that you can see it? Okay, so let's take our nuts out. We'll start with one of them just to demonstrate. You guys know how to do this. We're going to line it up. On this side, you're going to notice that these are all square-shaped holes, so you want to insert them. And in this case, we're going to be using these 4 holes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and lining them up with the I-frame. So let that go fully all the way through. Just push it through. And you'll see on this side, it's fully in there. Now this is important because when you secure the nut, then this is not going to spin. So that will allow the nut to spin without the bolt spinning, which will allow you to fully tighten it. Okay. So now we want to just hand thread it. And then you can either tighten it now, or you can put the others on and then tighten it later. In my case, I like to tighten it now, but not all the way. Not all the way because you want to give it a bit of leeway to wiggle around as you put the other bolts in. Okay. Okay. All right, and so do the same thing with the other 3 bolts, and Bob's your uncle. Okay. And this might be a reason that you don't tighten it instantly, just to give it a bit more leeway to wiggle around. There we go. You want to make sure you put the washer on, and then the nut. Okay. We'll just speed through this. Okay. Now that all 4 of them are in, we can tighten them. There we go, first step done. So here's the diagram. There's only 2 screw bolt assemblies, and the reason for that, I assume, is because this is supposed to be able to pivot. So there's also a additional washer or bearing that this is supposed to spin in. So it goes bolt, then bearing, then you have the frame interfacing with the other frame, and then you have the washer, and then finally the nut. So let's try doing that. This time we have an actual hexagon shaped head, and we have that little bushing. So we're going to take this frame here, and I think we can put this upside down to get you a better angle. Take this, pick it up by the frame and not the spinning part, because you might hit yourself. Position it like so, and then line up these 2 holes. Now before you put your nut in, before you put your bolt in, you want to take your bushing and you want to place it on the inside of that interface. So in this case, it might be easier to actually slide that out, put it in. Oh, and as you can see, it's a bit of a friction fit, so we can just let that hang there and do the same thing on the other side before we slide this back on. Okay, and then we're going to slide this in. Then we're going to take our nut. In this case, I might have needed a second wrench, because when you rotate this, there's nothing keeping this in place. But anyway, take a washer, take a nut, and screw that in. And same thing on this side. So line that up, insert it, washer, nut. Okay. I'll be right back. I'm gonna get a wrench so that I can secure this. Okay, so I have another wrench right here. This is just going to be holding the nut in place so that it doesn't spin while you try to secure the bolt. Okay. And I wonder, okay, so that one rotates really nicely. Same thing on this side. Okay. So right now my question is, can you tighten it too much? Is there, like, should you tighten it all the way? I'm assuming you tighten it all the way. But as you can see, or no, and as you can see, when you tighten it all the way, it gently turns. No doubt aided by the fact that we have that bushing in the middle that reduces the friction between the frames. Okay, so that's step 2 done. Okay, so the next step is to put the other U-shaped piece on. This one has a short carriage bolt and a long carriage bolt. The long carriage bolt seems like it goes through the bar, the thickness of the bar, and the short ones look like they go through the the long carriage bolts will go through here, and the short ones will go through here. Pretty self-explanatory. And this one's also one where you're going to have to flip it on its side, so that you can insert the bolts from one side. Okay, so let's do that. I think we're going to be able to stand it up just like this, because now that we have this over here. Okay, so let's get our bolts. And I'm thinking we're going to do the long ones first because, well, it doesn't really matter. We're just going to do the long ones first. Seems like there's going to be a bit less leeway on the long ones, just intuitively though. Okay, so the places that we're inserting them are here, here, on the bottom here, and up here. And you can see that on the other side as well. So I'll take the long carriage bolt. The long ones go on here, towards the back of the cart, and the short ones go on the outside. And I think that while we're here, we can just put all of them on, because it looks like the friction kind of keeps them in all the way. Yeah, it's kind of hard to push these out. Like if I try to hit them from the back, they have a hard time coming out. So I might as well just put all the bolts on. Okay. Same thing. Alright, so now we can put our attention to the front side. In our case, we're going to want these bars to be facing the inside of the cart because they're going to go through these bolts. And we might have to angle it a tiny bit just so that we're able to angle everything together. So I would start with the long bolts first because there's more thread to cover. So you have a bit less leeway with them. Once these are on, you can be sure that these other ones will also be easy to finagle. So same thing here. Okay, and now once they're all on, you want to take your washers and your nuts and then secure them. Make sure you don't cross your threads. Okay. So let's tighten them. I'm going to make sure on the back that they're all pushed in all the way. Alright, that's step 3 done. Okay, so step 4 is putting on the wheels. One question my dad had is, are the front wheels different than the back wheels? And if you compare like all 4 wheels, there really isn't any significant difference between them. So I think they're interchangeable. But one thing to note that is important is that the outside of the wheel will have the valve stem. So the inside of the wheel, the axle will have this much larger protrusion compared to this side. So just keep that in mind as we're putting it inside. We're going to need these washers and these pins. And so the way that this works is you put the washer on, then you put the pins and then lock them in place. And I'll demonstrate what that looks like in just a second. So let's do it with one, just as an example. And we'll do it on this one right here. You'll notice that to actually put them on, you'll have to take off these rubber caps. So you want to take your wheel, make sure that the outside's facing the outside. Inside is the much thicker part. Mount it. Okay. And if you look closely, you can see on the axle, there is a hole for the, not collet chuck, the cotter pin to go through. So we'll put the washer in, and then we'll put the cotter pin on. Okay. So this is gonna be interesting. So you want to unflip it, insert it into the hole, and then flip it back in. And this will keep it in place and prevent the wheel from coming off. So one thing my dad pointed out is that in some reviews, people stated that they actually lost their cotter pins. So to avoid that, you should put your cotter pins from the top down so that they don't fall out. If you remember in the previous clip, I put them from the bottom side, so if they ever get dislodged, instead of like falling out if they're on the bottom, they just stay there if they're on the top. Very simple. So we're gonna do that for all 4 wheels and just speed through it. Okay. Let's do this upside down now. I'll start with just mounting all of them. Take our hardware. Okay, and since this is upside down, I'm going to do it from the bottom, because when we flip it back up, that would be the top. Okay. The same thing on this side. Alright, so we have our wheels back on. Sorry, we have our wheels on now. That's step 4 done. And we're going to move on to step 5, which is attaching this piece to the front of it. Okay, so this is going to require simply, 4 bolts, 4 nuts, and 4 washers. And they're going to be attached to these 4 holes. Very simply. The bolts are going to come from the inside, and the nuts are going to be locked in place in these hexagon-shaped divots. Okay, so let's flip this over for the instructions. One thing you'll notice now is this kind of functions like a cart, as it should. and you're also able to flip it up. So you can be careful of that as you're doing the next few steps. Okay. So let's take our dump handle. So this handle is going to be used for dumping the cart. And we're going to take our hardware and get everything ready. So again, the bolts go on the inside, and the bolts go with the washer. So we'll start with one on the corner. Line that up, and put just one nut. Okay. So it looks like because we can't rotate the nut, we'll just push in the nut, and then rotate the bolt a tiny bit. Then we'll fasten it later. Same thing on all the other four. I wonder why they went with these different strategies for each of the types of bolts. Like, why did they use carriage bolts for this one and normal bolts for this one? Definitely I'm sure they chose the most efficient bolt, but since I'm going into engineering myself, like, I wonder what the thought process is. Okay, same thing on the bottom. And same thing on this last corner. Okay. So let's tighten it. If you want to be super meticulous about this, you could go back over all the bolts and then retighten them. You know, the same way that, like, when you put a tire back on, you equally put pressure on all of them to make sure they're all equally tight. But I don't think that's going to matter too much here. So we have step 5 done, and the next step is to attach the tow handle. And that is simply just one bolt, one washer, and one nut. Okay, and I see. So this isn't optional. If you want to attach this to a tractor, the attachment point is here. It's not there. Which you'll see in our next video on how to attach it to a tractor. Okay? So it looks like this plastic piece is definitely part of the actual frame. You can't pull it off. We're going to take the carriage bolt, slip it through, and if you look at the hole, it's square shaped, and that is meant to seat the carriage bolt. There's a square shaped profile on it that sort of fits into place like this, and it prevents it from spinning. You want to loop that through. Sorry, you want to feed that through. Sort of finagle your way through until the carriage bolt sits in place. So it shouldn't spin now. Put your washer on. Put your nut on. And you want to tighten it. Okay. And at its tightest, it looks like this still spins somewhat freely. So that's step 6 done. The last step, step 7, shows you how to detach the handle so that you can attach it to a tractor. To do that, there's a cotter pin here that you simply undo, and then feed. What's the opposite of feed? Just take this pin out, and then take this part out, and then you have your tow hitch, your anchor point for the tractor. Oh, and actually, now that I think about it, this actually slides back so that you don't lose it. And then you can anchor it to your tractor. Okay, very cool. So I'm gonna put this back. Very simple. And there we go. We have our gorilla cart fully assembled. So it can be pushed and pulled, and it can be dumped. Wow, look at that. Last step I want to make sure is just like, if I wiggle it a lot, does anything come loose? If it doesn't come loose, then that means you probably assembled it correctly. Okay, so now we're going to see if this fits through our fence gate. So this is the reason that we got this size and not the max size. There's actually one that's 12 cubic feet, but that one's not going to fit through this gate right here. So we measured it and we saw that the tires were at max 30 inches across, and this gate is about 32 inches. So if it doesn't work, we're going to have to return this. Which, as you expect, 30 inches in a 32 inch base works. Okay, and now we can use this for all of our gardening needs and all of our landscaping needs. Very cool. And now I can be dumped. I can be dumped. Oh, okay. A bit of playful fun. But as you can see, that is the assembly of the 7 cubic foot gorilla cart. Thank you. So, I'm Aiman, and thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and look at other videos on EyeOnAiman. Especially keep a lookout for that video on the review of this. So we did an unboxing, but we're also going to be doing a review after we've used it for a bit. We're also going to do a video on how to hook it up to a tractor. In our case, we're going to hook it up to our Cub Cadet lawnmower, but same thing. And who knows? Maybe after our experience with this one, we might go for the 12 cubic foot one. But we'll save that for the future. Anyway, I'm Aiman and signing out.